Charlotte Chaos, how are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm super excited to have you on the Authors on Audio podcast, and we're going to talk about your book, Death Defiant.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, I just like to start off talking about like your writing process and how you became a writer. So, tell me about your journey to writing and how did you settle on writing these kind of dark romance style books?
I've always wanted to write, first of all. I was at my parents' house fairly recently and I was in my old bedroom and I found like a journal from when I was maybe 10, 11, 12, where I'd started writing a story. So I think it's always been in me, but I sort of saw a need, at least in my opinion, for like a dark, whimsical type of vibe. Not necessarily like a story that, yes, it had its serious moments, but could also laugh at itself. It wasn't so serious. A lot of dark romance is very brooding and is very constantly serious, and I wanted to not poke fun at the genre because I love the genre, but kind of make something similar but with more fun involved. Something that had its serious moments but that also was lighthearted and kind of a little crazy. I don't know, I love writing that kind of crazy chaotic style with just characters that show their depth but also can make you laugh.
Yeah, no, I for sure got that reading the book where it would have these kind of more sincere moments, and then there would be moments of where it just, got really big, I guess is the way that I think about it in my mind, where it was very fun to read. So can you walk me through your writing process from when you have like the inception of an idea till the book is published and ready to put out into the world?
So if I have an idea and they come constantly, I will chew on it for a while, right? So I'm not just going to write down every idea I have. I can't do that. There's not enough time in a day. And if it hasn't left me after like a week and it's still like banging around in my head, like I'll start thinking about the characters, about what they're like. And a lot of times, if it's a story that I want to put down or that I'm going to put down, it almost comes to me pretty quickly with the characters and how they're fleshed out and the different aspects of them. This was one that kept kicking around in my head for several weeks. So I was like, okay, well now it's time to write this. If it's not leaving me alone, and so I just started that journey, just one chapter at a time, really trying to bring some nuances to the characters in ways that you wouldn't expect as well. And I'll sit there and I'll have the whole kind of story in my head with what I want to happen, what the ultimate goal is, and then I just fill in the rest. But I have it all in my head before I even start writing. And if that happens for me and it's very clear when it does, then I know that this is something I need to write down. Sometimes they'll come in my head for like a few days and I'll be like, and it'll fade. So that's not, it's kind of odd how it happens. There is another one that's been kicking around in there too that I started writing, so it wouldn't leave me alone either. So that's sort of my process is if I get harassed enough by my stories, I will start writing them down.
I love putting it that way, getting harassed by your stories. It
No,
can
but
it can
but
really
I
feel that way.
but I do, and I get harassed by the characters
Yeah.
constantly.
So are there any writing resources that you like to use or swear by during that process?
So I do have sheets that are like chapter outlines, but those are more to keep track of things for myself. My short-term memory is not great. So I will have a sheet with a chapter and kind of write down the main plot points that happen, the main character driven moments that happen so that I can go back and refer to it moving forward. But honestly, it's just me and Google Docs against the world. A lot of writer friends, I know I have one friend who uses Canva and like maps each chapter out, and I'm great. I can't do that. It makes me angry. So the simpler the better for me. Sometimes if I am writing and I'll want to do something in a later chapter, I'll like notate it at the very bottom of the document. So as I keep going, I have that down there like, hey, make Senor Sparkles do XYZ, and I've got that there to remind myself. But I don't use a lot of resources and I probably should, but a lot of that in and of itself is time consuming and I'd rather just get to the fun part. A huge resource though for me locally has been the author group that I'm part of in Central Florida. So they have been a huge help just in support, but also in recommendations for even things like the paper on Amazon or ways to get your Amazon shipment so there aren't any damaged books, like what quantities to order. So that's been a non-publishing resource, but a non-writing resource.
Yeah, no, I think those types of like author support groups are so important and helpful, especially if you have one readily available in your area.
Yeah, it's a huge one here. There's a ton of us here.
How did you come across it?
Another local author actually put me in it probably just over a year ago. Added me to this giant chat group on Instagram. And so then we just keep adding people as we meet them. So it's a group of authors anywhere from people that are trad published to people that are just starting their journey and haven't published yet.
That's really cool. It's something I love about the writing community. I feel like it's very supportive. I have like a theater background, and the theater community felt a little more cutthroat to me. Where the writing community, it feels so much more like, hey, let's support each other. Let's see how we can, kind of the concept of like we all have crowns. Like we're not in direct competition with each other.
There's enough room at the table for everybody. And I know I have seen some posts where it's cutthroat in the author world, but I haven't personally experienced that yet. But I do have some friends that have experienced that even locally as well. That one friend said before she knew better, another author had asked her, how many books she sold or whatever. And then she told her, and the other author never spoke to her again because she didn't sell as many books. So she just got frustrated, I guess. I don't know. I'm like, who cares? Like, I sold 5 books one time and the girl behind me sold 40. And I was just sitting there like, hell yeah, go girl. Like, it's the attitude. People are just miserable people sometimes.
Yeah, and there really is nothing more. That's crazy, like to ghost someone because you're mad that they're successful. That's
right. Like, I told her, I said, I'd be asking, what did you do that I didn't?
Yeah.
Because let's learn.
Totally. I mean, that's such a better perspective too. And honestly, you probably can learn a lot from people who, are kind of sitting where you want to be. So how would you say your writing has evolved? How many books have you written at this point?
Okay, so published 3 as of earlier this month, but in total 6.
Wow. So how would you say it has evolved from like that first book to, whatever you're working on now?
Oh my God, that first book is a pile of hot garbage. So I don't think it can get much worse than that. Like, that book will never see the light of day. Unfortunately, it is on a pay-to-read platform, so people are unfortunately still reading it. I am sorry if you are. I think even between book 1 and book 2 and Death Defiant, my voice, I think you see where I really hit the stride of embracing the unhingedness of the story. I don't know if you've read book 2.
Not yet. I've only had time to read book 1 so far.
Book 1 is mild compared to book 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Book 2 is they go to hell. It is fully unhinged. It is not in the ways that you're thinking. Like, it's not violent. Well, some of it is, but it's not just typical hell. There's eating contests. The ferry boat isn't a ferry boat. It's a cruise ship with a demonic party 24/7. Satan ice skates. Like, there's all this random weird stuff involved.
I love it.
But I think even just between 1 and 2, my writing matures in the sense of just the way I speak of things, the way I'm describing things, the language that I'm using. I can tell a difference in the way that it's written. And it's meatier. Like, book 2 is meatier. It's more plot, less smut. Obviously, because nobody has time in hell, and nobody likes sand in their butt crack. So I think it's, as I keep going, and even now that I'm in book 3, right? Because my co-author and I just dropped a short story collection that is part of that universe, but I'm actively working on book 3, the final one in the series. And even just writing that, I can see a difference between 2 and 3, and just the way that my writing has continued to evolve as the story needs. So it's,
yeah.
But I think I've definitely improved my vocabulary, for sure, is getting a workout. I even noticed, because I am in the process of an audiobook for book 1, and I was proofing it, and I was like, God, I keep saying his dick swelled. Could I not have thought of something else like 5 paragraphs ago? Or even if it was last chapter, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have definitely said something different than this again. So I'm catching these things that now I would do differently, but that I didn't do then. So there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, 100%. So you write dark romance. Do you think you would ever venture outside that genre for future books? Do you have anything like mulling away in your brain, or do you really just love that genre and want to stick with it?
Oh no, 100%. I'm going to be an absolute genre whore. I have zero plans to stick to just dark romance. The one that I have kicking around my head is more of like Gladiator with vampiric angels. So more of like a fantasy. It wouldn't be dark romance. And and it wouldn't be a wide choose. So there's, yeah, I definitely want the freedom to explore different things. And it was funny. I was at an event, and one of my friends, who's another author, she has one of those big, I don't know what they're called, the vertical stand-up things that authors have, banners. And she's like, oh, you don't have one of those. I said, no, because the second that I have one, I'm going to change something and I'm going to have to reorder it. I just don't have anything like that that pins me down, and I don't want to be pinned down. I want to have that freedom to create and explore, and it might be a pile of garbage, and who knows, but we're going to try it.
Yeah, totally. I think, I feel that way as a reader. Like, I don't feel like I can just read one genre. I know there are some people who maybe they only read fantasy or they only read thriller. Like, I would get so bored. I imagine it's the same, like, as a writer, just writing the same thing over and over again. You probably want to expand a little bit and explore, what else your brain can come up with.
Right. And definitely. And there are, I think most of the writers I know, they don't really stay in the same genre. If they do, there's enough of a difference to where it doesn't feel like they're writing in the same genre.
Right. So speaking of genre, let's talk about your book a little bit. So how did you come up with the idea to write a dark romance from the perspective of the four horsemen of the apocalypse specifically? How did you land on that idea and making Death like the one woman in, kind of this why choose trio situation?
Well, it was one of those ideas that wouldn't leave me alone. It was underdone, and I've read maybe, I think, only one series where it was the Four Horsemen and it was a why choose situation, but it was completely different. Like, the female was the apocalypse itself. So it was very different. But I was like, that's an amazing sort of thing. And there's so much lore to play with there, because we always view the Four Horsemen as an evil entity, but are they really evil, or are they a cleansing factor, and who's to say if they're good or evil? Because there's always some good in evil and always some evil in good. Like, nothing's ever just that cut and dry. And so I liked Death as the female lead because famine, pestilence, and war all end in death. So she is the final one between all of them. And so she's the final one in the story. She's their missing piece, but she's also the final horseman that has that's the connecting piece between all three of them, which that comes into play a little bit you'll see that in book 3 more. But it comes into play later when, maybe she might not be as strong as all of them, but what does she have that they don't? And it's the fact that she is literally the glue, because everything they do ends in death. Not that she needs a giant great power of her own, but she's like the root, and she's the groundwork of their power. She's the foundation.
Oh, that's so cool. So why choose? Why not have the female lead pair up with one specific person?
Well, you can't do that. There's four. Drawn to all of them, but realistically speaking, I don't know. I could use about 3 more husbands. I've always liked why choose because I do feel like it is hard for any single person to get their needs met completely 100% by one person in the sense of everything perfect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I like exploring that dynamic, but also exploring that dynamic with characters that are very opposite or very different and how they come together, individually. So you saw that in book 1. She pairs off with each one of them individually, and there's a very different dynamic with each of them.
Yeah, I was going to say it's almost like they each fulfill a different need, yes, based on their unique personalities.
Yes, they do. And within the role of the horseman as well as within the role, romantically speaking, they all kind of come together.
So do you have a favorite one of those male leads?
I do.
Or one that you like writing more?
God, I do. I don't know if you'll be able to figure out who it is, though.
I feel like maybe it's Famine.
He is actually my least favorite to write.
No way. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm super off then. Do you want to share, or you want to keep that to yourself?
No, Freeman's such a butthole. I like Ethan. I love writing Ethan and Pest.
Okay, what is it about them?
They're just unhinged. Ethan just says some weird stuff constantly, and I can just, whatever my brain comes up with, I can put down on paper for him because it's his character. It suits his character to just kind of spit out whatever. He's skinny dipping in the pool. He's smacking his ass, asking her if she likes what she sees. The next second, he's got her strung up on the spreader bar. He's just everywhere, and it's so chaotic just writing him. But it's so fun. I just giggle whenever I write him because he just says some wild stuff, but it's so in character for him. So it's just really fun to kind of embrace that aspect, and Caden would obviously be the middle ground, but Tristan is just so grumpy and stick up his butt, and that's hard for me to write.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the reason why I leaned toward him is because I felt like he had the most character growth throughout the book.
Yeah, he does.
So that's why in my head I was like, oh, maybe this is like kind of the golden child, but it sounds like you like the characters that are just more fun and out there and you can play around with them a little bit more.
Well, Tristan had to have his growth in this book because in the next book you're going to see more growth with the others. So somebody had to have it in this book, and he was poised perfectly for who he is, what he is, and his circumstances to have the growth with her before, because they all do need that strong emotional bond before they go to hell, because that's where the bonds are going to be really tested. So he had the least amount of growth in book 2 because he already had it in book 1, whereas the other ones are going to have it in book 2, Ethan especially.
Okay. So, speaking of like kind of having fun writing these chaotic, playful moments, you do balance them out with some very serious moments. And there are some moments where it takes kind of like a sharp left and it gets, it goes from like, oh, this is unhinged, this is super fun to this is very serious. So, what motivated you to kind of create those contrasting moments within the book?
I think I know which one you're specifically talking about.
Yeah.
That always gets everybody. They're a little
Sure.
confused about my transition before and after that. And part of that is highlighting that just real life goes on around these horrible moments, but also highlighting those moments that show character development, character depth. Also, a little bit more in those moments, you see Hans and Ember a little bit more. And speaking, just bringing into a little bit of the seriousness about the reality we live in currently as people, too. Kind of incorporating that in a way that makes it a little bit more bearable. In that specific scene, I did have a reader that I met in Georgia, and she got my books, and she told me that for the first night in 30 years on the anniversary of her daughter's death, that was in a similar circumstance, she was able to sleep.
Wow.
Because she read my book, and it gave her a new perspective on that.
Wow, that must have been a big moment for you as an
That
author.
was huge. Like, I think I cried a little. Because
Yeah.
I would never have expected that. That was not what I set out to do when I did that. It was more of just, I'm bringing this in because this is a serious moment. This needs to be spoken on too, and this will also highlight character development, highlight stuff that's happening in our world currently as humans, pull the heartstrings, give some empathy for people, as well as, just general awareness. I wasn't expecting anybody to ever help heal somebody.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show, like, you never know how what you write is going to impact someone or in what way.
No,
So-
you really don't. And it's fun because we've talked, since then, and I'm going to be somewhere in Nashville around November, and she's actually going to come to that signing, so I'm going to get to see her again. She's coming to another one I'm going to be at, so it's just nice because you get to see these readers over and over again, and you get to talk to them, and you get to really know them, and it's... Like, I remember telling my husband that. I was like, did you hear that? And he goes, yeah. He was like, that's amazing. Because he was with me. Poor thing, he was with me for that. And I was just like, oh my God, I never, that's incredible. I would have never assumed anything like that would be possible from just a book.
Yeah. So going back to your characters a little bit and, just thinking about their relationships with each other. Can you talk to me about like the contrasting relationships with each of the male characters and sort of going back to what they each kind of fulfill within Death and her, what she gets out of each relationship, I guess.
So one of the things, and you'll see that a lot of times, other than Pestilence and Ethan, because they're both completely unhinged, right? But you have Famine, who is a complete opposite of Tristan. And Famine just is this black hole. He wants everything. And then Tristan is very controlled, keeping him on a tight leash. So there's a direct contradiction there. Then you have War and Caden, who seem very, as one. Like, they have an understanding, right? But if you think about War is not always chaotic and violent. It can be subterfuge. It can be subtle. It can be an understanding and diplomatic. And then Ethan is Pestilent, and he's just generally unhinged and sprinkling everything everywhere. So even within their demon to human forms, they are contradictory of each other. So then when you look at them bringing something to death, Famine just wants everything. So he's probably going to be very greedy with her, right? But Pestilence, don't want to spoil the Pestilence part, but I guess they all have their own way of interacting and fulfilling. Caden, obviously, him and War are very chill, so he kind of balances her out. Tristan challenges her. Ethan is like, I just love everything about you and I just can't get enough of you. So they're each bringing their sort of unique personalities to her and to Death at the same time. Pestilence, you see that with him and Death as well. He just wants everything to do with her. He is like on her constantly. War, a bit more reserved. And Famine's not quite sure yet. So they all do different things, and then they all have their separate relationships outside of her, because Caden and Ethan are very close, and obviously Tristan is sort of like the odd man out.
What makes Tristan so tightly wound?
I can't tell you.
So this is something that comes up in later books then?
It does. You sort of get a peek into him and then to some of his past too in the short story collection too. There is some with him and Amara and kind of why he is always so tightly wound and why he is always kind of puts Famine on a leash, because, well, you see it in book 1 too, because what happened when Famine lost control one time. And he's tightly wound because when he finds that out, it makes things worse. And so then he realizes he has to keep Famine on a very, very, very short leash so that he doesn't hurt people. And he's just kind of an asshole anyway, honestly.
Yeah, some people, their personalities are just, they are what they are.
He's your grumpy in the grumpy sunshine.
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a butthole. And part of that is having to rein Famine in, right? That makes his job 20 times harder. And Famine's out there partying and having wild orgies and everything, and he pushes Tristan to the back and does his own thing, and Tristan's not even in control of his own body for most of those times, so he's pissed off at Famine all the time too.
I want to take some time to talk about your indie author journey and how, like kind of the more business side of things. So, how did you land on wanting to independently publish your books? Did you ever try querying, or that was just not for you? How'd you find this path?
I think the path found me. I've never even entertained querying. I mean, maybe one day. I like having the control to write what I want to write in the way that I want to write it. And honestly, I never even thought about it. I wrote the thing and then published it. I wasn't like, oh, let me go find an agent. Let me go. Because also, too, is when you look at publishing, all those things cost money. And that is something most of us don't have expendable income of. So, and I got to do, my own chapter art. I got to have a lot of input in the cover. I didn't have anybody saying, hey, alter your content to be this, that, or the other. Although maybe that would have helped some. But, I didn't have a micromanagey type thing. And there's a lot of freedom with indie publishing, but there is a lot of really good things about trad publishing too, where you do have those checks and balances. You do have that, support. One day I would like to query, but I don't even want to try doing anything like that until the series is complete, but I don't know. And I've thought about it too, but I'm also like, I don't have time for that or money for that. So I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense that I think creative freedom is something that motivates a lot of indie authors to not have to answer to a publisher or an agency or, a big editor. Were there any mistakes you made along the way that you would have done differently, now that you've had a little more experience, or, advice that you'd give to people who are just starting out?
Well, with book 1, I definitely would have had more beta readers on it. I've caught a couple mistakes as I'm proofing the audiobook. I've caught a couple tense mistakes that I made, things like that. And I would have maybe had more beta eyes on it. Because the thing is I can sit there and proof it until I'm blue in the face. And the fact of the matter is, eventually it all just looks like word soup to me. I know the story so well. I know it inside out. And I'm sitting here proofing it for the 50th time. It just blurs together and you miss stuff. So I would have liked more fresh eyes on that. And I had that with book 2. And I think that turned out a lot better because of that. Because I had more feedback, I had more eyes on it. I was able to, have them catch things. I feel like that really helped. Or they would catch hey, you brought this up, but you never resolved it. Are you leaving that for book 3? Or, they would point out things like that. And I feel like that's really helpful. So I definitely would have had more betas. Even just like 5 to 10 would be perfect for somebody. So definitely betas, definitely an arc for book one, because I didn't put an arc out. I think that would probably be my only changes I would do with book one, because I think that would really impact the quality of the book.
What's the process you use for finding ARC and beta readers now at this point?
Well, because I already have one book out, I have a reading base now. So I can put it in my Facebook group. I can put it on Instagram, like, hey, sign up for this arc. I put it in the Discord. But at first, I didn't know how, and that's probably why I didn't have any. I had no idea how to go about any of that. And this was before I was in the Central Florida writer group too. So I had no clue. I'm just out here swimming alone. Now that I know better, I can do better.
I agree 100%. I think beta readers are, like, in my opinion, the most important thing for story development, because it's so true. You're looking at the words on the page.
Oh yeah.
And there just comes a point, like, you can't, I call it writer's blindness. Like, you can't see it anymore. Like, you've become attached to the story. You've read it 5 billion times.
Right.
You really need that external feedback coming in. And then you get something pointed out to you where you're like, how did I not see that?
That's it. Because, and you're blind. That's a perfect term for it, writer's blindness, because that's exactly what it is. How did I not see this? It's like a giant chair's in your path and you just bump into it over and over again. You keep doing this, but you're not learning because you're not seeing it. And it's very hard to, as a reader, you're like, well, how could she have missed this? No, listen, like, my brain is like dribbling out my ears at this point. Like, I'm going to miss stuff. And that's exactly why beta readers are so important. You nailed that. That's 100% exactly why.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of beta readers. I feel like you probably can't have too many, but I agree. I think anywhere from 5 to 10 is like a good spot where the information's not overwhelming, but you still get enough eyes on it that, especially if the same criticism or feedback is popping up for different people, you're like, that's definitely something that needs to get addressed.
And you want to make sure that your beta readers come from different genre backgrounds too. Like, I had some that are typically dark romance, as well as some that are fantasy, some that are historical fiction, things like that, so they could provide different views and different perspectives as well.
Yeah, definitely. So what about social media? How does your relationship with social media look like? Do you spend more time on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook? Tell me all about it.
Social media.
It's the universal reaction.
Marketing is the absolute pits. I am so terrible at marketing. I'm not a huge TikTok person. I am mostly on Instagram and Threads. It makes me want to pull my hair out. I try to be semi-consistent, but like, some people have these nice little themes and they consistently post. And if you look at mine, it's just chaos. Like, it honestly is. It's just like, I just puked my social media everywhere. And honestly, I'm fine with that, because I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. I don't like marketing. I don't do great at it. Like, I would be the kind of person that would just post like a picture of my cover and be like, hey, you should read my book if you want. Like, that's me. I'm not like, I don't have these pretty paragraphs or anything like that. I'm just kind of like, here it is. Do it if you want, no harm, no foul. I do like Instagram, I think, the most out of all of them. I use TikTok to watch videos of cats. Okay, just being real. And apparently to go shopping sometimes. But Instagram, I think, has the most traction for me, as well as the easiest way, it seems, to reach other people or to have them find me, versus TikTok. I think I sometimes get very buried. I also don't post on there as regularly. And Threads is just an extension of Instagram, so it's sort of like the same thing, but like text. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, social media is... You would not believe how many of us are in the chat like, we hate marketing. That's where the querying and the trad pub comes in great, is because they do all that stuff for you. Like, how much more time would I have to write if I didn't have to do all this? I try to like get on, do my thing, and then hop off. I try not to get too distracted and go down like a rabbit hole, but sometimes it happens. And then I'm on social media for 30 minutes scrolling, so I'm just like, put the phone down. But yeah, it's the marketing is not great. I mean, I try to always do like a work in progress Wednesday. With new releases, obviously, I try to kind of like get excitement for that. Sometimes I try to post about like a day in the life or whatever, but filming content just, don't know, I feel like that's exhausting. Or like always going to, when I go to a bookstore, remembering to take a video of myself walking in. I'm just like, this is exhausting. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to go in and drop my books off.
Yeah, I think, a common complaint that I get a lot is that you're a writer, you want to write stories, and maintaining a social media takes up a lot of like creative energy and mental energy that you'd rather be using to just write your books.
Well, 100%. And I also work full time and have a kid. So I don't want to use my energy on creating content. I want to use my energy on my family, on writing. At the end of the day, if I have like a couple drops to squeeze out to do a social media post, that's fine. But that's not my priority. And I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm missing opportunities because I will see my friends that are authors, like they're have this cute video, they're walking to the bookstore, and I'm like, man, I could have done that on my last run. But I'm rocking up to the bookstore in like fat pants and a tank top with my books because I don't give a damn, and I'm just dropping stuff off, and I'm like, this is not what we video. This is not what we video. Everybody's doing this all looking cute and stuff, and I look like a homeless person. So
I do think that there's like space for just being authentically yourself. Because I think most of us, if we're just making a bookstore run, yeah, it can be like more pretty and aesthetic if someone like they have their makeup and their cute outfits and their hair's done and stuff.
That's 100%.
It's not most people, I think. So I mean, for me, I'm like,
I can help it. So
yeah. So for me, I'm like, just be authentically yourself, and the right audience will find you. And I think that's the best anyone can do, really, when it comes to social media.
Well, and that's why my social media is such a hodgepodge of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, here it is. This is me.
Yep. I mean, yeah, just so you know, every time I ask this question, and I ask it every interview, this is the answer. I have not come across a single author who has felt like they enjoy social media. Necessary evil is a term that comes up a lot. And yeah, maybe in the future there will be other avenues for marketing, but
I mean, short of paying for ads, there really isn't too much.
Yeah.
There are a couple authors in the group that have like, I don't know, social media management degrees and stuff like that. So maybe they enjoy it, but most of us are like, no, this is awful.
Yeah, and it just feels like the algorithm changes so much too. So like the moment you feel like you found your footing, it like just shifts beneath you, and you're like, come on.
I never even try to understand that, because really, who can?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
again, we're talking about energy. I don't have the energy to try to understand meta, and how it changes every other day.
Yeah.
I'm just going to post my stuff and keep shooting in the dark, and one day it's going to hit a bullseye.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even want to try to understand that craziness.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, people are literally getting degrees in it, so it is just...
Yeah, if it takes a degree to understand meta, then I am 0% interested.
Moving on from the slog of social media, can you just kind of shout out like some of the books? You can throw in movies or even songs that you just love and that inspire you as a writer.
So this is a little bit of a story, but I promise I go somewhere with it. So one of the biggest jokes among a couple of us who are local is the black cover of my book. Right? Book one is solid black. Oh, I have it right here. I have my proof copy. Solid black. And it all started a couple months ago, maybe it was March. A bookstore I had messaged about potentially stocking had said that my premise sounded very interesting, but they weren't sure that their readers would enjoy or would be drawn to it with the solid black cover. And they were quite rude about it and asked if I had a professional cover artist. And if not, they suggested I get one and things of that nature. And they're like, we hate to judge a book by its cover because of the saying, but in this case, we have to judge a book by its cover. Like, it was very, very off-putting. I was like, yeah, just say no. My covers are designed by a professional cover artist, by the way. I kept them simple for a reason. But there's been a joke ever since then among some of us. Anything bad that happens, he'll be like, oh, it's Charlotte's black cover at work again. It's because Charlotte had that black cover. One of the girls, her AC went out, and she's like, it's Charlotte's cover. So there's just been a huge joke. But the reason that this is black, the next one is red, and the third one is going to be like a cream or a white is to pay homage to Anne Rice's Beauty trilogy. I love Anne Rice. She's been a huge inspiration my whole entire life reading career. Like, I was reading her books in middle school, and her original beauty trilogy, now she had a fourth one come out, but the original three were black, red, and white. Solid covers. That was it. And so it was sort of like a nod to her is why I chose those particular covers. Also because they fit what I'm writing, but because I was like, this is like sort of like a nod to her. I've always enjoyed her work, anything she writes, but my favorite of hers is Pandora with the vampire series. Everybody always loves the Vampire Lestat, but I really enjoyed Pandora because Pandora is amazing. Other writers I really enjoy are Nalini Singh, her Guild Hunter series, as well as Jacqueline Carey, the Kushiel Dart series. Both of those I highly recommend if you haven't checked them out. The Hunters Guild series, or Guild Hunter, sorry, it is on audio, and the narrator is fantastic, but it's like 18 books deep, but it is so good, and it's angels, it's hunters, it's just like nothing I've ever read, and she'll hop from character to character, but everything keeps moving forward, right? So she's on the main couple for a little bit, then in like the fourth or fifth book, she changes to a different character, and they're your main, and you're like learning all about them. But as you're going through their story, you're seeing the other characters come in and out. So you're also seeing the characters that you already met and their progressions along the way too. It's very, very well done, very cohesive. And just the last book, by the way, it's complete. The last book just dropped. It is, of course, I immediately got it on audio and I listened to it, and it just felt like a nice warm hug. And like I was coming home to a friend just listening to it. And I've never read anything like that, like her storyline or her premise. I've never seen anything like it. So that one, the Guild Hunter series, is a high recommend for me, as well as the Kushiel's Dart series. That is like a medieval kind of fantasy, but with modern stuff in it some. And it's also really interesting, and it is complete, and they do have she does have a companion novel with one of the main characters that came out, kind of, I think, giving more of a backstory on him. So that's also another strong recommend. And then, of course, one of my all-time favorite books is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. That one is just hilarious. The satire in it, I don't know if you've ever read it, it's just top-notch. So, God, I read that in college. And I think like I just sat there and giggled my way through it. So, keep in mind, I went to a Baptist college, and Good Omens is complete satire on the whole creation story.
Okay, I wonder, maybe did you raise eyebrows being in an environment that maybe wouldn't appreciate that?
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. I was raised Lutheran, so already being a Lutheran at a Baptist college was a little bit different. And then I didn't go to church. You know, I'd be there in my pajamas getting my like lunch on Sunday, and all the people are rolling in their like fancy get up, and I'm just there like in my PJs.
How was church?
I mean, right, like how was it? Because all I did was sleep, so like I hope you prayed for me. I don't know. I mean, my mom's Christian, my dad is, he doesn't talk about it much, but he doesn't go to church, so I think that he's either atheist or agnostic. So, you know, I'm somewhere in the middle somewhere. Just spiritual, hanging out. Don't really have a name for it, but definitely not a church person.
I was gonna say Kushiel's Dart is like really high up on my reading list. I'm actually on the wait list for it at my library. It's like 2 weeks out for the audiobook, so I'm definitely gonna read that one.
Love it.
I'm excited.
You need to already get the rest of them lined up, because I have it. It's in my bookcase over there. I think there's like 3 or 4 of them. And then the one about the male main character just came out, the companion novel, or not just came out, like within the past couple of years came out. And I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm sure it's going to be great.
Well, were there any other books or anything you wanted to shout out real quick?
I do want to give a nod to my co-author with the latest release. Her book, Becoming Lilith the One, by MZ Pak, and that's P-A-K. She just dropped that in April. It is dark. It is depraved. So like, whereas mine is like dark and whimsical, hers is like dark and not whimsical. It's dark and depraved. It also brings in some lore with demons, as well as some angels, and kind of, I wouldn't say biblical lore, but there is biblical edge to it. She co-authored stories from Hell, Heaven, and Somewhere in Between with me, and it was a lot of fun working with her, so a shout out to her for her book. That is going to be a series, but her first one did just release. So if you're looking for something very dark and very depraved with blood and sex in some really interesting situations, that would be where to go. I remember reading, I got a copy and I read it and I like wrote down all my little notes on it and I sent it back to her, and she just got a kick out of it. But it was very well done. But it's like, if you could think of like, when they talk about like dark and seductive, like that would be what I would say for her book. It's very dark, it's very seductive.
Nice. I love the very specific description. How did you say, if you like blood and what did you say? I'm trying. No, I felt like
Interesting sex scenes together.
Yes.
Blood and interesting sex scenes together.
yes. I'm like, that's very specific. Good to know.
Scenes that I was like, okay, so we're doing this.
Okay, good to have all the triggers beforehand so you can go in informed. All right, Charlotte Chaos, thank you again for being on Authors on Audio. It was so much fun talking to you and about your book and your favorite books and, just your indie author journey. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.